So the closest thing we've got to a Steam Deck 2 is probably this guy. This is the Lenovo Legion Go S. Now, some of you have probably already heard of the Legion Go S, but the one you're familiar with is probably this guy right here. This is the Windows version. This white one came out a few months ago, but this purple one right here is completely dedicated to SteamOS. So for my non-gaming PC folks, these are gaming handhelds. This one has Windows, which is the Windows we all know from our computers and laptops. And this guy is using SteamOS, which is basically a dedicated gaming platform where you can buy games and play them right on the system. And I will say, one is a little bit easier to use than the other. And we'll get into a bit of that later, but what we've got right here is the Go S, and this thing is an insane gaming machine. We've got this 8-inch LCD display, which is a bit on the large side, but it is phenomenal to game on. And I know you're probably hearing LCD display and going, oh, trust me, Lenovo screens are fantastic. And even for an LCD display, this thing looks incredible. And I know there is an OLED Steam Deck, which the colors look fantastic. Ooh.
Nice catch.
Thank you, thank you. But compared to the Legion Go S, you can tell the Legion Go S is no slouch, but it's kind of hard to beat OLED. It's just a really beautiful display. But if we're not comparing side by side, this thing looks absolutely incredible. And while this is a larger gaming handheld, Lenovo did some amazing work in making this feel super ergonomic, and it is extremely comfortable in the hand. The way it sits in the palms, the little ridges on the side to give it some grip, the button placement, everything was done really well on this. So I have no issues walking around with this kind of system. I actually have been for the last few weeks, and playing on it just feels fantastic. But the build quality here is phenomenal. Like, this one does come in that Nebula Violet, and the Windows version is like this Glacier White. Those are the color names. And I wish that you could, maybe pick what color you wanted, but these are dedicated to the different operating systems. I'm not a huge fan of purple, but I can get behind this. In most situations where there's not a ton of light, this looks pretty close to black, to be honest. Now, if you're familiar with all of these new gaming handhelds, this follows pretty much the same design and the same layout in terms of like the buttons. We do have Hall effect joysticks over here, which is like a must so you don't get that stick drift, but everything else is pretty much the same. We do have this little button over here, which is not really a button, but it's more of a touchpad so that you can, do different gestures on SteamOS. It's really small compared to the ones you find on the Steam Deck. These are massive, but to be honest, I very rarely ever use those, so I don't mind that they made this one so small.
It's not that hard to use either.
It's not. It really isn't. Once you get used to it, it's kind of like the Lenovo, the little nub they have on those laptops. It's very similar to that.
Yeah.
The ThinkPads, yeah, the little red nub. But you also get those two USB-C ports up top, headphone jack, micro SD card slot at the bottom, and of course the extra buttons on the back. So these mappable like Pro buttons. And in the back, you've got your adjustable trigger switches. So if you want them to actuate really quickly, put it up, quick presses. And if you want to full press, bring them down and you got it. I'm not gonna lie, when I first laid my eyes on this, I was really happy. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Legion Go design. It felt a little boxy to me, but I think Lenovo must have heard all the feedback and really switched up the ergonomics to be extremely comfortable with this. So from a design and comfort perspective, I absolutely love this thing. Like, I'm a huge fan, but it also it games well. So from a hardware perspective, Lenovo did everything they were supposed to with this. And when it comes to the specs though, there are a couple of options out there. This guy right here has the AMD Ryzen Z2 Go chip, and there's also a Z1 Extreme chip. The Z1 Extreme is kind of like the top until maybe like the Z2 Extreme comes out. But right now you have between the Z2 Go, which is the more affordable option, still solid gameplay, versus the Z1 Extreme, which will cost you more, but will also perform better. Now for me, either option is an upgrade compared to the regular Steam Deck. You're able to get really smooth gameplay with the Z2 Go. I felt like it performed a bit better than my experience on Windows, but when it comes to the Z1 Extreme, you get even more performance and you can push those graphics a little bit more than you can with the Z2 Go. So when it comes to those two, it's self-explanatory. It's more about your budget. Do you want to really push the graphics as far as you can with the Z1 Extreme? Or are you fine with, playing at medium graphics with a smooth frame rate? That's what the Z2 Go offers. And I gotta say, when it comes to gaming, Having this 8-inch display is awesome. Like, this feels like a proper gaming experience. And, oh, it's not nice. I'm like getting treasure and whatnot while we're talking. And it's 120 hertz display, so it checks all of the boxes. So depending on the kind of game you're playing, if it's not really graphic intensive, you get those high frame rates. I will say, I think gaming on this is probably the best experience I've had with one of these systems. I love my ROG Ally X. I personally think this is the Windows handheld to beat. Looking at the display, this feels so tiny to me now. I think SteamOS for me makes it a lot easier to take this thing around, stop playing whenever I need to stop playing, and I'm able to pick it back up with confidence that my handheld isn't dead. So the gaming experience here is great, it's comfortable, and it's reliable. Now, if you're wondering what's so special about this whole SteamOS thing versus Windows, there's a lot to go into. Like I said, SteamOS is a platform where you can buy games, play them right on the system, and that's all you get. So think of like the operating system of a Nintendo Switch, where you turn it on, you have your games, you have the Nintendo stuff, and that's pretty much it. Whereas with the Windows version, over here, you straight up got Windows, the full-blown operating system. And a lot of these manufacturers will make software like Lenovo did, where you can just kind of just jump into the games and, you know, just focus on the gaming part versus the Windows part, but it's still Windows. Now, when it comes to these two operating systems, there are some pros and some cons, obviously. This is a really smooth experience. Playing on SteamOS, you jump right in, you play. One of the biggest benefits to me is being able to put this thing into sleep mode and it not drain the battery, it not turn on when you aren't playing. It is a proper sleep mode. Just like back in the day with any of your portable systems, your PlayStation Vita, your Nintendo 3DS, any of the systems, once you put that thing to sleep and you want to resume it later, you could just do that, not a problem. That's the experience here. Whereas with the Windows version, if you've ever experienced your laptop waking up even when you have the lid closed and you find out there's no battery left, you got all of those same things here. And it is not a good experience when you want to just put down your handheld and go do something else. These systems are made for in and out gameplay. And on these Windows devices, the out part is a little bit harder than what I think all of us are used to. So that's a massive benefit to this thing running SteamOS. It is built for handheld gaming, but there is a trade-off. And for me, that's compatibility. Now with this, you can only get games from SteamOS, which is a little limiting right in itself, but there's another limitation in that some games just aren't supported on SteamOS. There are multiple games that are supported, some that aren't. And for me, when it comes to an operating system like this, and you're downloading and buying games on the operating system, they should all work. Whereas with Windows, you're able to play all of the games on SteamOS. You have access to other platforms like Xbox, so you can play Xbox and all the Game Pass games on that. And there's a bunch of other platforms as well. I think Epic Games has its own platform where you play Fortnite and whatnot. Blizzard has their own platform. So you get access to all those platforms and the games just all work. So for me, that's the biggest caveat to SteamOS. You don't get access to all of the games on the SteamOS platform. Now I will say, once you've got Windows going on one of these devices, you can also use it straight up as a PC. You connect like a monitor to this thing, a keyboard, mouse. You can have like a similar experience with the Steam Deck, but then you're in the world of like Linux. Most people aren't comfortable or familiar with Linux. So you can do the same here, but it's not the Windows we all kind of know. Now I love the Go S, and I really do think we're looking at Steam Deck 2.0. I don't know if Valve is going to be dropping anything anytime soon. From what I know, they're waiting for some big technological leap to jump back into the hardware. But I think it kind of reminds me of, I'm gonna get too nerdy on you guys. You know the Nexus days? Where Google used to make hardware and they were just kind of showing everyone, this is what it could be like if you guys use our operating system. That's kind of what we got with the Steam Deck. And now I think once more people like Lenovo, and who knows if Asus wants to jump in. I know Lenovo worked really closely with Valve to make this product, but who knows, maybe they open the door to other manufacturers and we're kind of looking at all of these different OEMs with this operating system, kind of like what we're seeing with Windows. Now, when it comes to battery life, there's nothing groundbreaking in here. It is a 55.5 watt-hour battery in here, and you're gonna get your solid like 2 hours of gaming. It all depends on your own settings, but for me personally, the way I game, I'm looking at about like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But I will say on the battery side of things, this one isn't like breaking any records or anything. Let's just say it falls in line with what you'd expect from a device like this. Now the Go S with the Z2 Go and SteamOS retails for $599, which is only $50 more than the the Steam Deck OLED, and you've got better hardware here. Like, this is just better hardware. The screens are different, yes, but to me personally, this is a better overall product, and it only costs $50 more. But if you want to go up to like the Z1 Extreme, where you can push it a little bit more and get better graphics and gameplay, then you're looking at about $829.99, which is a pretty substantial jump up in pricing. All in all, I do think that this is a really solid buy for folks looking for a regular handheld gaming experience. Like, turn your brain off, just play the game, that's good. Except for the compatibility issues within Steam for some of its games. Outside of that, this is the kind of handheld experience we expect from Sony, Nintendo, and now I think with Lenovo and Valve coming together, they're giving it to us on the PC side of things. But that about wraps it up for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts. I like it. Peace.